I sat in the back of my father's attorney's office, watching my stepmother Diana preen in her designer outfit as the will reading began. My father had been gone for 3 months, and today was the moment Diana had been waiting for, the distribution of his estate. As per Mr. James Harrison's final wishes, the attorney began, but Diana immediately interrupted. "We can skip the formalities, Richard," she waved her manicured hand dismissively. "We all know only blood family inherits. That was always James's way." She shot me a practiced look of fake sympathy. "No offense, Alexandra dear." I kept my face carefully neutral, thinking about the meeting I had scheduled for tomorrow morning. Diana had no idea that while she'd been playing the grieving widow, I'd been executing the most important business deal of my life. "Actually," Richard cleared his throat, "Mr. Harrison did leave something for Alexandra." Diana's perfectly penciled eyebrows rose. "Oh, the costume jewelry perhaps." She fingered her own real diamonds meaningfully. "The old bank building on Market Street," Richard announced. The room went silent. Diana's son Trevor, my stepbrother, snickered from his corner. "That abandoned dump? Perfect for her. Matches her status." I accepted the deed with quiet grace, watching Diana's smirk grow. The building had been empty for years, a relic from when it had housed the original First Metropolitan Bank branch. What they didn't know was that it wasn't abandoned at all. It had been part of my plan all along. "The rest of the estate," Richard continued, "including the mansion, the summer homes and all liquid assets, will be divided among blood relatives as specified." Diana's smile was triumphant. "As it should be. Blood family first, isn't that right, Trevor?" Trevor nodded, already scrolling through his phone, probably planning how to spend his inheritance. At 29 he'd never worked a day in his life, coasting on my father's wealth and his mother's protection. "Alexandra," Diana stood, smoothing her designer skirt, "don't feel bad, dear. James just believed in taking care of real family first. I'm sure you understand." Real family. The words echoed in my head as I thought about the last decade. How Diana had systematically worked to push me aside after marrying my father. How she'd convinced him that every achievement of mine was somehow less important than Trevor's latest failure. "Of course," I smiled softly. "Family is everything, isn't it?" Diana missed the edge in my voice, too busy discussing renovation plans for the mansion with Trevor. They barely noticed as I gathered my things and left, the deed to the abandoned bank building tucked safely in my briefcase next to another, more important document, the ownership papers for First Metropolitan Bank itself. What Diana didn't know was that for the past 5 years, while she thought I was running a small investment firm, I'd been quietly buying up shares in First Metropolitan Bank. The old building my father left me? It was the final piece I needed. The original charter location that carried special voting rights in the bank's bylaws. As of tomorrow morning, I would become the majority owner of First Metropolitan Bank, the same bank that held Diana's numerous mortgages, Trevor's massive credit card debt, and all the loans they'd taken out against my father's estate before his death. My phone buzzed as I reached my car, a message from my assistant. "Board meeting confirmed for 9 a.m. All paperwork in order." I typed back a quick response, "Perfect." And the audit I requested on the Harrison family accounts. Complete. "You were right, multiple instances of suspicious activity. The forensic accountants want to meet." I smiled, starting my car. Diana had always been careful to maintain her image as the perfect society wife, but I'd seen the shopping bags, the secret purchases, the mysterious transfers from my father's accounts. Now, as her bank's new owner, I would see everything. Another message flashed, "Diana, dinner at the mansion tonight? We should discuss your little building. Perhaps Trevor could take it off your hands. For a fair price, of course." I declined politely, citing a business meeting. Let her enjoy her last night of thinking she was in control. Tomorrow would bring a very different kind of family reunion. As I drove to my office, my real office, not the small investment firm Diana thought I ran, I thought about all the time she'd emphasized that I wasn't real family. How she'd slowly convinced my father that blood was thicker than water, that Trevor deserved more because he was true family. Well, blood might be thicker than water, but ink on ownership papers was thicker than both. I parked in my reserved spot beneath the First Metropolitan Bank building, nodding to the security guard who already knew me as the new owner, though it wouldn't be official until tomorrow. In my office, I reviewed the documents one last time, the ownership transfer, the audit reports, and most importantly, the new loan terms that would soon apply to the Harrison family accounts. Diana had always said family comes first. Tomorrow she'd learn just how right she was, just not the family she'd expected. The next morning I arrived at First Metropolitan Bank's headquarters at exactly 8:30 a.m., giving myself time to prepare before the 9 a.m. board meeting. My assistant Marie had everything arranged perfectly. The boardroom set up, security in place, and most importantly, a direct feed to Diana's branch where she'd be attempting her usual morning transaction. Ms. Harrison, Marie handed me a tablet showing multiple security feeds. Mrs. Harrison Stevens has just arrived at the Westbrook branch. She's attempting to withdraw $50,000 from one of the estate accounts. I smiled, adjusting my Chanel suit. Real, not the knockoffs Diana always accused me of wearing. Perfect timing. Is everything in place? Yes. The new system flags have been activated. Any transaction over $5,000 from the Harrison Stevens accounts requires direct approval from the owner. I watched Diana on the screen, tapping her expensive heels impatiently as the bank teller looked increasingly uncomfortable. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. The branch manager requesting approval for the transaction. Declined, I said simply, watching Diana's face turn from impatient to outraged on the screen. But I am Diana Harrison Stevens, her voice carried through the feed. I've been banking here for 20 years. Get me your manager. The branch manager, already briefed on the situation, appeared appropriately apologetic. I'm sorry, Mrs. Harrison Stevens, but all significant transactions now require approval from the bank's new owner. Perhaps if you reduced the amount. New owner. Diana's voice rose an octave. Since when? And what do they have to do with my accounts? The ownership transfer was finalized this morning, the manager explained. And given some irregularities found in recent audits, special oversight has been placed on certain accounts. I watched Diana's perfectly maintained composure crack. Irregularities? I demand to speak to this new owner immediately. Of course, the manager smiled. I believe she's in the main branch now. Shall I set up a meeting? Diana's eyes narrowed. Tell me the name. Just then Marie appeared in my office doorway. The board is ready for you, Ms. Harrison. I stood straightening my jacket. Tell Mrs. Harrison Stevens I can see her at 10:30. After the board meeting where we'll be discussing those account irregularities. The next hour was a masterpiece of corporate theater. I walked into the boardroom where the bank's directors, mostly old men who'd known my father, sat waiting to meet their new majority shareholder. Gentlemen, I began, I believe you know me as Alexandra Harrison, James Harrison's daughter. Today I'm here as your new owner. The presentation that followed was precise and devastating. 5 years of strategic share purchases. The acquisition of the original charter building that carried special voting rights. And finally, the forensic audit of certain privileged accounts, specifically, those belonging to Diana and Trevor. As you can see, I highlighted several suspicious transfers on the screen. There's been a pattern of unusual activity in the Harrison Stevens accounts. Multiple large withdrawals, unauthorized transfers, and several loans taken out against estate assets before my father's death. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had approved those loans based on Diana's influence. Going forward, I continued, all Harrison Stevens accounts will require direct oversight. Any transaction over $5,000 needs my personal approval. One of the older directors cleared his throat. Miss Harrison, while we appreciate your thoroughness, Mrs. Harrison Stevens has been a valued client. Who has been manipulating this bank's resources? I cut in smoothly. The audit shows at least 3 instances where loan documents appear to have been altered after signing. I'm sure the Banking Commission would be very interested in that. The room went silent. On my tablet, I could see Diana arriving in the main lobby, her face a mask of barely contained fury. Now, I smiled at the board, shall we discuss the new direction First Metropolitan Bank will be taking? By 10:25, I had the board's full cooperation and was seated in my new office. The same one Diana had often visited to arrange her special banking needs. Marie's voice came through the intercom. Mrs. Harrison Stevens is here. She seems agitated. Send her in. Diana burst through the door, designer handbag swinging like a weapon. What is the meaning of She stopped dead, her eyes widening as she saw me behind the massive desk. Alexandra. Hello, Diana, I smiled. I believe you wanted to discuss some banking matters? Please have a seat. We have so much to talk about. You, she whispered. You're the bank's new owner? Surprising, isn't it? Amazing what someone who's not real family can accomplish. I opened a file on my desk. Now about those irregular transactions in your accounts. Diana's face went from red to white in record time. Those were authorized by James. Really? Because the signatures don't match the ones on file. In fact, our forensic team has some very interesting theories about how those signatures were obtained. She sank into a chair, her designer outfit suddenly looking less pristine. You can't do this. I'm your stepmother. No, Diana, I corrected her gently. According to you, I'm not real family, remember? I'm just the bank's owner, reviewing some very suspicious account activity. My phone buzzed. Another transaction attempt, this time from Trevor trying to use his credit card at a luxury car dealership. Declined, I said, not breaking eye contact with Diana. It seems Trevor will have to postpone his new car purchase. In fact, given the state of his accounts, he might want to consider something more economical. Like a job. Diana's perfectly maintained facade finally cracked completely. You planned this, she whispered. All of it. The building, the shares, the audit. I learned from the best, I replied calmly. Wasn't it you who always said family comes first? I'm just protecting the family's interests. My tablet chimed with another alert. Trevor had arrived in the lobby, his face red with anger. I pressed the intercom. Marie, send him in. Let's make this a proper family reunion. Trevor burst through the door like a spoiled hurricane. What the hell is going on? My cards are all declined and the Ferrari dealer. He stopped short, seeing me behind the desk. His mouth opened and closed several times, making him look like an expensive fish out of water. Trevor, I smiled. Perfect timing. I was just explaining to your mother how the bank's new ownership structure affects your accounts. New ownership. His eyes darted between Diana and me. Oh, no way. You're the little shop girl Dad felt sorry for. I pulled up his account details on the large screen behind my desk. Speaking of feeling sorry, let's discuss your credit card debt. $2 million in the last year alone? That's quite impressive for someone who's never earned a paycheck. Diana stood up, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. Whatever you think you're doing, Alexandra, it won't work. Your father. My father, I cut her off, trusted you. And how did you repay that trust? I started displaying transaction records on the screen. Here's a wire transfer from his personal account to your private one, dated 3 days before he died. Here's a loan application with a suspiciously shaky signature. And here, I pulled up one final document, is the forensic handwriting analysis. The color drained from her face. You can't prove. I don't need to prove anything, Diana. I own the bank. Every transaction, every loan, every dollar you've spent, it all needs my approval now. I leaned forward. And I'm not feeling very approving. Trevor lunged forward, his designer suit straining. You bitter little. Careful, I warned. Threatening a bank owner in her own office? That could be problematic for your upcoming loan applications. Oh wait. I checked my tablet. All your loans have been called in. Effective immediately. Called in. Diana's voice rose to a panic. You can't. The mansion, the cars. Are all financed through my bank, I finished. And given the suspicious nature of those loans, I'm well within my rights to demand immediate repayment. I pressed a button and Marie entered with a thick stack of documents. These are the repayment notices. You have 30 days to settle all outstanding debts. Of course, I smiled, I'm willing to be reasonable, if you're willing to negotiate. Negotiate? Diana's eyes narrowed. What do you want? A full confession about the unauthorized transfers from my father's accounts. A public acknowledgement of your financial manipulations. And Trevor. I turned to my stepbrother. You're going to get a job. A real one. Starting in the bank's mailroom. The mailroom, he sputtered. I'm Trevor Harrison Stevens. No, I corrected him. You're an unemployed man with $2 million in credit card debt. And your mother's tricks won't save you this time. Diana sank back into her chair, her designer outfit suddenly looking like a costume rather than armor. You're destroying us. No, Diana. I'm teaching you what family really means. Every time you reminded me I wasn't real family, I bought more shares in this bank. Every time you pushed me aside, I got closer to controlling your financial future. I stood up, walking around the desk. And now, the daughter you dismissed as not real family holds the keys to your entire world. My phone buzzed. Another transaction attempt, this time Diana trying to move money from one of her hidden accounts. Declined, I said softly, watching her face fall. All transfers require approval from family, remember? The next hour was a symphony of revelations. Every hidden account exposed, every financial manipulation brought to light. By the time security escorted them out, Diana's perfect world had crumbled to designer dust. 1 month later, I sat in my father's old office at the mansion, now mine, after Diana and Trevor had been forced to sell it to cover their debts. The wall that once held their family photos now displayed my achievements: skating medals, business degrees, and the bank's ownership certificate. Diana and Trevor had moved to a modest apartment across town. Trevor actually showed up for his mailroom job every day. Amazing what real consequences could accomplish. And Diana? She'd learned that real family isn't about blood or marriage certificates. It's about trust, respect, and karma. My assistant appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Harrison Stevens is here for her appointment. I smiled, thinking of the humble loan application sitting on my desk. Diana's request for a small business loan to start over. Send her in, I said. Let's see if she's learned what family really means. After all, blood might be thicker than water, but karma is thickest of all. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't just taking control. It's teaching those who wronged you the true meaning of family, one declined transaction at a time. As Diana walked in, her designer clothes replaced by off-the-rack business wear, I thought about how fitting it was that the daughter she'd dismissed as not real family now held the power to redefine what family really meant. Have a seat, Diana. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Let's talk about your future and what it means to be real family. Because sometimes the best lessons about family don't come from blood ties or marriage certificates. They come from the people you underestimated, the ones you pushed aside, the ones who quietly built an empire while you were busy playing power games. And now it was time for Diana's final lesson in what real family means.